Hey there, family. Hey, beautiful people. Child, it's a lot going on, okay? And on top of life, just lifing, right? As y'all see, I'm out and about. But I'm probably going to end up having to break this up into a couple different clips because it's quite a bit I want to talk about. Some of it important, some of it maybe not so important, but I still think worth a conversation. I'm hoping that these don't come off as rant. I don't see them as a rant. I really see it as a conversation, a passionate conversation about some conversations. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start with my brother Tyrese because it is Black History Month. It's been Black History Month since last Thursday. We've seen a whole lot of celebratory things, some of it just for show from our so-called allies, some of it really being authentic, but I want to start there. Most of y'all probably saw his post, basically saying, he kind of wish he was part of the Latino community. And first, okay, good for you, to each his own, okay? But I believe everything has a it's understanding, and let's talk about the rationale. If your rationale for saying, I would like to be a part of this community, or that community, right? Because they exemplify or they exude or they exhibit certain characteristics or traits or what have you. So, his post, went on lamenting, how the Latino community, they come together, they band, they work hard, they're about women, they're about, all these different things. As if to say those don't exist at all in our community, which they do. I agree, like they don't exist to the extent I wish that they did. But then I think later on in the post, he kind of acts or appears to be oblivious, okay, as to why, right? So why do Black people as a community have some of the more negative things in our mindset, or the more negative things that hurt and or are toxic to our communities, like the crabs in the barrel syndrome, like not showing up and supporting each other, right? Like not, being as connected as we could, not, saying, hey, look, we're going to band together. We're going to fix this. We're going to address the needs that are going on within our community, right? So because it is Black history, and as I shared on the beginning of Black history, I'm Black, honey, and I am boldly, okay, loving and accepting and challenging and championing knowledge, okay, hon? So knowledge, okay? There is a reason, okay? Black people just didn't wake up one day and decide, you know what, screw everybody else, and it's all going to be about me, and mine, right? That's not how we began, okay? As the ethnic group that really scientifically and genetically are the cradle of civilization, okay? Knowing our lineage, knowing our ancestral lineage, right? So knowing that at one point we had dynasties, and our dynasties don't get created when there's division. Dynasties don't get created if you're not coming together, if you're not unified, if you're not building towards a collective future. You don't get to have dynasties. And Black people, we have had multiple dynasties. Now, since the slave trade began, and long before it finally made its way over to these United States, right? Then that's when it became eroded. Okay? Unlike other minority communities, there has been intentional systems, intentional policies, intentional acts and behaviors that have all been designed to do exactly what Tyrese, or create exactly what Tyrese, apparently was lamenting on, in terms of how we are as a community, right? The separation, okay, the disconnection, right? That was by design. The Latino community has not and does not experience that in this country, okay? Most of them who are here, a lot of them who, again, if an orange person happens to get back in office this November and declare martial law, let's see who come into whose aid, right? Because that's going to be chaos. Okay. And that will be at a very low level the experience that we have had in coming here in terms of our families being separated, mothers being separated from their children, men being separated from their families, right? And families broken apart and sold off, right? That's why Tyrese should know that. Okay, but because, or maybe again, he was saying he doesn't understand why. Okay, well, first know, and then that should help you begin to gain some understanding. And within your knowing and in your understanding, then we can start to collectively see how do we fix and how do we correct. The problem is, yes, too many of us don't know, and too many of us don't understand what drives these issues because we asking the wrong questions. Hence to my next thing. Okay. I'm so over the Beyonce Taylor Swift comparisons, debate, whatever you want to call it, right? Oh girl, and I'll be 100% transparent. I'm not a huge watcher of The View. I typically like to go back and watch and see what my girl Whoopi is talking about, and on occasion I'll see what they're talking about. But I don't spend a lot of time watching that show. I'm not a religious watcher of that show. Haven't been for quite some time. However, the lady Griffin, I think is her name, had a Karen moment, and somehow again felt that Taylor Swift was a victim of Jay-Z and him standing up for his wife, and rightfully so. The math ain't mathing is what he was saying. You don't have 32 Grammys and none of the 32 happens to be album of the year. And again, all he's saying is make it make sense. Make it make sense. Matter of fact, I appreciated more of the people going back to say not only has Beyonce been the victim of whatever you want to call this system that they have when it comes to voting for album of the year, but there have been egregious snubs, including Purple Rain not winning it. The fact that it has been 25 years since the last Black woman won that award, and that was the amazing Lauryn Hill and the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which is a classic. Okay. But that's what he was talking to. But again, this Griffin lady, again, decides to take this moment to somehow say that, basically this was unbecoming of Jay-Z. And again, what's unbecoming of a husband standing up for his wife to say, hey, look, we appreciate this. We make the music. We understand that it's subjective and it's about opinions and about whatnot. But let's make this make sense. That you're willing to award certain artists here, but not when it comes to that particular award. Why is that? And so that is an issue. And then at some point during her giving her thoughts on, Jay-Z and what he said, goes on to say that, she, we don't need it. And Beyonce came out and she supported, Taylor at her movie premiere. And likewise, Taylor did the same when Beyonce dropped the Renaissance film. That's slightly irrelevant. Okay. Because again, it's Black History Month. So let's educate ourselves. Black women have been supporting and showing up for white women because that's actually what we had to do. We were showing up and supporting white women when we had to take care and raise their children, breastfeed their children while our children were hungry and or even taken away from us. Okay. So that's not enough of a reason to say, because we want to show up, yes, and support, and we want to empower all women regardless. Right? We want to be a champion for women, period, full stop. That still don't mean that we shouldn't point out to say, okay, well, something about this isn't right. Okay. Me showing up to support you doesn't mean that I also don't get an opportunity to say when something is being done wrong to me or when something is happening around me that, and we need to take a look at that. All right. Because I think it may be something that is unfair or something that is unequitable or inequitable about that. Right. It's almost to say, well, if we're going to show up for Taylor, then okay, well, yeah, never say anything bad. And the world don't work that way. Right. So again, didn't really appreciate that. I won't even go to one. This was a conversation that was even I think a week or maybe even longer ago, I really was just like over it so much. So again, didn't watch the whole thing in its entirety, so I'll be transparent about that. But in talking with other folks who had, I felt justified in my reason for not looking at the interview or the conversation with Shannon Sharp, and I believe Ocho. Same thing. This whole Taylor Swift, Beyonce debate. Let's be clear. A lot of this is driven by the media wanting to compare these two superstars in their own right. These two icons, really in their own right. Okay, who have done amazing things. From an artist perspective, they've done amazing things for their communities. They've done amazing things in terms of using their platforms, right, to empower and uplift and encourage and all these great things, right? And apparently the conversation turns into impact or, moving the needle, I think was the word that was used. And I think it was meant more of moving a needle, let's say maybe politically, moving a needle across different, industries or different spectrums and whatnot. And I think one brought up the fact of Fox News is is having many conversations about Taylor Swift. And are angry and upset. They have a lot of, old white men angry and upset about Taylor Swift and about Taylor Swift into, coming and intruding and infringing upon, the NFL and all that, BS. And again, for me, the question is why? Okay. Because I applaud her for using her platform to say, hey, look, y'all need to get out here and register and vote. Beyonce has also done the same. And using her platform to go out and vote. She's gone on the campaign trail for Beto O'Rourke and there in Texas. The difference, and again, and here's where the conversation should be had. Okay, not comparing these two women and who is better and more able to, do and move the needle in X, Y, and Z, but it's looking at, okay, well, why? Okay, why has Fox got their panties so in a wad over Taylor Swift and not so given, any care about how Beyonce is using her platform? It's the same thing. Tell Black people, hey, look, y'all need to get out and vote. Okay, y'all need to participate in elections, yada, yada, yada. Okay, and here's why. Here's my opinion or my thought on why. Because who is Beyonce's primary audience? It's Black people. Fox ain't worried about Black people. They already believe we are not showing up because too often we don't show up. Okay, so they not worried about. You could take Beyonce, Denzel Washington, all of our mega Black stars and have them campaign forever, and they probably won't make a blip on Fox's radar. Because again, they're talking to Black people. Fox don't care about Black people. We are not their audience, okay? Again, they already know and don't believe we showing up, okay? They just don't. They care when people like Taylor Swift are saying, y'all need to go vote. You need to go and register, and saying these folks over here, including their leader, is not where we shouldn't get behind that. That's not where we want this country to be. That scares them because who Taylor talks to, who her primary audience is white grannies, mamas, and their daughters. That's why she moves that needle. And then she further moves it because now, folks are now even getting to introduce her who maybe didn't know who she was because she's dating Travis Kelce, and vice versa. Folks know who Travis Kelce is because he's dating Taylor, right? It's kind of a win-win. But that's what we need to be having a conversation about. Again, these two women did not ask for this. And again, I don't like anytime when the media uses little opportunities like this to try and pit. And I'm glad that they do continue to show up for each other. I'm glad that they do continue to say, hey, look, we not beefing. Okay. We're not about that beef. We're not about, who doing, it's all about love. It's all about support. It's all about the fact that, yes, Taylor's like, man, again, a lot of artists owe a lot to the trail that Beyonce has blazed, and there'll be future generations who will say, "Hey, look, I'm able to do what I do because of past that Taylor Swift has blazed," and we should all be applauding that, as opposed to trying to make it something that divides us, right? So I need us to do better when it comes to how we talk and how we have those conversations. And I think that's the same thing in terms of Tyrese's point, right? First of all, let's know that globally, Black and brown people, we're not the minority. If we look across the entire globe, okay, if we look across everywhere, every country, we're not. We're minorities here in the United States. And the powers that be, it is in their best interest that even as minorities, we never come together. That's the sad reality, is that they actually want to see where Latinos think or feel or have a perception or an idea about Black people that paints us in a negative light. And it doesn't help when our own comes out and kind of does that and paints us in a negative light without giving the context. Because I'm not saying that as Black people, we ain't got some messed up things about us, because we do. Like some of the issues and challenges that we face, we have created them, meaning we also have to be the ones to fix them and correct them. And I believe we have everything that we need to be able to do that, because we've done it time and time again. Okay, we don't have to play in their systems. We have the ingenuity, the know-how, the resources, we have the finances, okay, to be able to create our own systems. And again, there have been pockets, if we know our history, where we have done that. And then it's been dismantled through policy. It's been dismantled, some of it just in sheer violence, i.e. Tulsa. Right? But we have still continued. It's just that the pockets were small. And that's what I mean. We started with dynasties, right? Then we were never able to get back to the dynastic power that we once were. So then it became, okay, regional or, tribal, right? So we so again, that's a much smaller scale. Dynasties are multiple tribes coming and banding together collectively to move something forward. But now we're saying, okay, well, now we got a couple of tribes and they're within power, within their area, and they're building and creating together. But that collectiveness, which is a part of our ethos, is gone and eroded. And then now, so we've got to a point now where it's not even community. It's not tribal. It's not community. It's not, in some cases, it ain't even about your family. It really is. It's about me. But again, if we follow the breadcrumbs, if we follow and understand our history, then we can understand that was by design. And now we can work to undo it. And we don't undo it by, again, doing the comparison route, of how come we can't be like them? Okay. That's dangerous. I don't want to grow up I don't want to be anything other than Black. And I am sure all of my Latinos that I know, that I'm friends with, they love and rep hard, and I wouldn't have it any other way. They don't want to be a Black woman. I don't see that as a bad thing. We should be who we are. It's only going to be one me. And this me happens to be a Black woman. And I'm good with that. I'm good with my people. I'm actually proud of our heritage. Even though, yes, again, it's some things, baby, we got to get on them and we got to fix them and we got to address them, and we need to do it now because time is not on our side. Okay? We don't have, we can't afford to lose too many more generations, okay, to diseases that we can prevent, to senseless violence that we can also prevent. We just can't afford it anymore. Okay. But again, the way that we fix it, again, is not for us to start comparing races and ethnicities, because that's the white man's way of thinking. Their ethos is actually built in individualism. Their ethos is not built in connection to anything. And that's what they want others to subscribe to their worldview, which is not our worldview. It's just not. But it's a worldview that they've peddled since the dawn of time. That they've peddled so that globally people are like, yep, that's it. That's what we need to aspire to be. That's what, okay, yeah, that's it. You be like that. Be like the white man. Don't be like the black man. Again, we're talking about people who deemed us lazy, ignorant, uneducated, and not just uneducated, like lacking the ability to be educated, right? But we are the same ones who built this country, the same ones who picked their cotton, picked their sugar cane, picked their tobacco, but we the ones lazy. And then if they feel like, oh, it's lazy because we whipped you into submission, no, you wasn't whipping me because I didn't want to pick that cotton. You whipping me because I don't want to be doing it for free, because I don't want to be doing it as an oppressed individual. We ain't doing this as a partnership where I'm making money off the tobacco I done been out here picking all day, right? But that's the mindset, right? So again, if the mindset is that we can now paint, again, two minorities that, again, this country really don't care about, let's be clear, but let's take one of them and, again, not label them the same way that we've labeled some of the other minorities. And then if we can start putting narratives out there that all the Latinos, they're better than African Americans, and people start buying into that, we subconsciously, whether we realize it or not, begin to behave that way. We begin to perceive, we begin to interact with the world and the people, places around us based on that thinking. And that, again, is dangerous. That's extremely dangerous. And that's not where we want to be, Tyrese. Okay? That's not where we want to be in Black History Month. That's not where we want to be at any point and at any time. We got to do better. We got to do better. People who have voices like Tyrese, like Shannon Sharp, so people who have way larger platforms than, the handful of people to be paying attention to what I say, right? Let's do better about curating, not just curating content for your brand or curating content for your image. Do that and curate information, stories, thoughts that can help us as a community move that needle, that can remind us of who we truly are and where and who we come from, right? Let's do more of that. Let's do more of championing and not giving into what the mainstream media wants us to be talking about, again, which is pitting these two women against each other. And somehow with the white woman coming out on top of the black woman. Because that's how really most of the narratives that Taylor, she's a bigger star. She has more star power. She has more, again, influence to move the needles and change and shift paradigms and whatnot. And I'm paraphrasing, but that is the gist of it. And that while Beyonce is great and she's super talented, she's still not as whatever, fill in the blank, when compared to a Taylor Swift. And that is actually unfair to both of those women, who, again, have worked hard in their own right to not be compared to anybody, because they really do stand alone in their own spaces. It's others trying to get to where they at. And they, trust me, they didn't get there by trying to tear other people down on their way to get there. So we got to do better. And And I believe that we can, and I believe that we will. I hope we do it in time, because again, time is not uh, a positive. It's not on our side. It is running out quicker than what we realize. I think when it comes to fixing things that can easily be fixed. Now, there are some things like they're going to be more challenging, but there are things that we can start with right in our own homes and our own neighborhoods and our own communities, about the values that we are instilling in our children, or the children around you, or who, the young people in your lives, and how are we pouring into them. You now have policymakers wanting to blame social media for some of the ills or the issues and challenges that our children and our youth are having. And I do think, yes, to some extent, they have taken advantage of the fact that there's not enough involvement in our children's lives from the adults who are in their lives. And so social media, to me, I think of it like when we realize, like, okay, well, why do some kids turn to games, right? And a lot of those young men, young women who are able to get out or get away from that life, later look back and say, well, one of the reasons I turned to the gang, or I turned to that, lifestyle, was because I had a family, because I felt like I had somebody who loved me, or who cared about me, or who would protect me, right? Social media becomes a safe space for our children when they have no one else to talk to, when they have no one else who is checking in with them, especially when they're extremely young and they have no one who is being a filter for what they're seeing and engaging with on social media, or any other. To be honest, it's social media, it's entertainment, it's all of that. Younger children whose minds are so much still in an early phase of development really don't belong on social media. That frontal cortex is still too impressionable for them to just be freely accessing social media with no boundaries, with no guidelines, and with no adult type of supervision. And we continue to see that, because those who are not aware, that frontal cortex is still developing even into our early 20s. That's why early childhood education is so important, because so much from a brain development standpoint is taking place during that time period. And if we think about what our children are exposed to, either at school, at home, in their neighborhoods, we're shaping and changing and rewiring how their little brains work. And then they go to social media and it's just like, putting gasoline on a fire. So that was a totally kind of, tangent to the first two conversations, but that's kind of where I just felt led to do that. So I've been talking for a minute, and again, this is cathartic for me, because it's just a way for me to speak to things that I've heard, or things that I've seen, things that I've been made aware of. There are many more. There are some new articles about what we're spending in healthcare and the value of it. Much like with everything else, the cost is going up, but the quality is extremely going down, and that's also happening in healthcare. The move to privatize things such as our Medicare program would be disastrous for minority communities. The fact of looking at what our legislators, i.e. my Congress, what they really focused on, and it ain't us. It ain't us. They're complaining about all the issues with immigration and all the people just flooding into the country, and don't want to do anything about it. They trying to impeach somebody else in Biden's administration, when there's been multiple legislations talked about, discussed, and they aren't even wanting to bring things to the floor. This 118th Congress has been the most inactive. Right. And if if this was a CEO and you're a company and you're evaluating them, their evaluation would suck. Their job performance would suck, They've done nothing. And again, we got to be thinking, why is that? So those are, again, just other things that have also been on my mind, that I'm sure I will, as I'm out and about, moving, going somewhere, I'll probably sit down and do or turn the camera on and do the same thing. But again, I love, I love Tyrese. Y'all know already. I love Beyonce. I wouldn't call myself a Taylor Swift fan, but I don't have anything against her. If one of her songs happens to get played, I don't turn it. Kind of, I like Blank Spaces. I think that's the name of it. But she's got some really catchy things. But again, wouldn't be a fan. I'm not rushing out to go buy an album, or anything like that. But she's a woman, and I support women, no matter their shade, right? Because I believe, again, we birthed civilizations. We birthed those dynasties in Africa. Okay. We are the birthers, meaning, God created us in that way to bring life. Okay. And I don't mean just human life. Within us is the capability, I think, again, to build and create many things. And so, yeah, I'm always going to be a champion for women, especially women, again, who are really trying to do the right thing, and again, use their voices and use their platforms to do more than sell records and hot products for billion-dollar companies that don't need it. So that's it. I love y'all. I love y'all, beautiful people. For those of you who actually sit and watched, again, this not a rant, but this conversation about conversations. I appreciate it. I hope, share it. If any of it resonates with you, I'd love your thoughts. Because again, I'm all about discussion. I see it this way because of where I sit and my lived experience. Somebody may see it totally different. And I'm good with that. Our difference don't have to mean we dislike each other. It just means that I saw it that way. Okay, you saw, and we good. Now let's move on. What else we talking about? What else we doing? Better. That's even more better. Not what else we talking about. What else are we doing? Okay. So I hope that you'll do that. But I love y'all. I hope y'all have an amazing rest of the week. And make it a good one. Make it a good one. All right. Mwah. Love y'all.